Welcome everybody to another episode. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. In today's video, we're going to be looking at Robert F. Kennedy's recent decision to suspend his 2024 presidential campaign. I'm obviously going to be giving my reaction, but also discussing the broader implications of this decision to us, the independent voter of America. So with that, buckle in. Let's get right into it now. Okay, so I think that there are three pieces as to why the RFK Jr. campaign came to the conclusion that they did, which is basically that, hey, I don't think we're going to be able to win this thing, so we're going to have to come up with another plan, which is the suspension of the campaign, right? So I think there's three parts, and the first part is ballot access, okay? And as you can see, this is just before he made his announcement that he was suspending his campaign. You can see there that his campaign managed to get 21 states. He was on the ballot of 21 states. That's the dark blue. The light blue, 15 states, still waiting approval. Are they likely to come in and give it to him? I don't know. It's 50-50 really. And you can see that he's been having so many legal battles that, you wonder if those are going to come through. So basically, he's in a little less than half of the states. Obviously, the red there are the states that he was just not going to get. He was thrown off the ballot. And those are big states. I mean, you got Florida, you got Texas, New York, those are pretty big states. So I think this is the ballot access map is definitely going to come into play in determining whether you can win this thing, right? The second piece that I think is important is that he failed back in June to qualify for the presidential debates. And I think that's a critical point, because if you're not on that debate stage, it's like you're not really a viable candidate in the minds of voters, right? We see this time and time again, third-party candidates do well, but then they're not on the debate stage. They're not in the presidential debates. And it just somehow totally, it just puts a halt to their campaign. You really got to get on that debate stage. I mean, the last time a presidential candidate, a third-party candidate, was on the debate stage was Ross Perot. And remember, he ended up getting 20% of the vote. And I think in large part was because he was on that debate stage, right there in between Clinton and Bush, and I think that not getting into the debate, not qualifying for it, was a big factor in really, I think, slowing down his campaign and putting it in the minds of voters that maybe he's not really a viable candidate, okay? You can see that according to the Commission on Presidential Debates, there are three criteria to get invited into the debates. The first one, obviously, you have to be eligible to hold the office of the President of the United States, and I think, obviously, RFK passes on that. But the next two are very critical. The second one there, as you can see, appear on a sufficient number of state ballots to have a mathematical chance of winning a majority vote in the Electoral College. So he probably didn't qualify on that one either, right? We just saw his ballot access map. And then the third one there is you must have a level of support of at least 15% of the national electorate of the polls, basically, right? You got to be at around 15%. So let's take a look at the polls, which is the third piece, I think, why the campaign came to the decision to suspend the campaign, right? And that is starting off very well. As you can see there, this is Biden versus Trump. So this is when Biden was running, okay? And as you can see, back in October, that's when RFK switched over from the Democratic to the Independent Party. And you can see that right up until August, you know. It's sort of steady, but it's not the 20 it was in October of 2023. It's pretty much half of that or less, right? He's down at just below 8%. Okay. What happens in August? Well, what happens in August is Biden steps down and we have a new presidential candidate on the Democratic side, Kamala Harris. Now, what happens when she comes in? Well, when she comes in, there is some excitement that's injected into the race, no question. It might have been engineered, but it definitely changed the the outlook of the race. And as you can see, it's reflected in the poll numbers. I mean, Trump was ahead of Biden for the most part, as we saw in the previous graphic. He was pretty much ahead of Biden. Now Harris is ahead, right? A lot of people would say that she's probably 2 or 3 points ahead. Of course, it depends on the poll you're looking at, but when you're looking at this one, this is an average, this is 72 polls over this period of time, over a 2-month period. And as you can see right there at the bottom, RFK has just gone down and down and down and down to the point where he's around 2-3% right now. So it's not surprising, given the goal of the campaign, which is to win, it's not surprising that 2 months from the election, they would make a decision like this based on the reality that's in front of them, which is you're losing support in terms of the poll numbers. You're not on the debate stage, and you're fighting for your life to get ballot access. So I think these reasons were critical in RFK coming to this final decision.
Many months ago, I promised the American people that I would withdraw from the race if I became a spoiler. A spoiler is someone who will alter the outcome of the election but has no chance of winning. In my heart, I no longer believe that I have a realistic path to electoral victory in the face of this relentless, systematic censorship and media control. So I cannot in good conscience ask my staff and volunteers to keep working their long hours or ask my donors to keep giving when I cannot honestly tell them that I have a real path to the White House. Furthermore, our polling consistently showed that by staying on the ballot in the battleground states, I would likely hand the election over to the Democrats, with whom I disagree on the most existential issues: censorship, war, and chronic disease.
Okay, so that's the key, really, right? This decision was also made not because he wasn't doing well and all that. Obviously, that's part of it, but also because it looked as if he was going to become a spoiler, as he says, a spoiler in the race, according to the polling that they were doing in the battleground states. So this move was to ensure, again, I look at this as a lesser of two evils. This was to ensure that the people that you didn't want or you don't agree with definitely don't get in by joining the other side. Do you see what I'm saying? This is kind of like a lesser of two evils move. I can't win, but I'm going to back the guy or the group that I think I most agree with, so that the other group definitely doesn't come in who I definitely don't agree with. Okay? So I think that's a tactic that's being used. I mean, take a look at this, right? When you look at the presidential, and this is coming from Fox News, when you look at the presidential voting preference, you can see Harris supporters on the left, Trump's supporters there on the right. Among Harris supporters, you see 36% of them are supporting her because they're against Trump. They don't want Trump to win, so I'll vote for Harris. And you can see on the Trump supporters, he has 22% of people who are supporting him just don't want Harris. So there is this lesser of two evils that is coming into play here. In other words, 30%, according to this poll, 36% of Harris's supporters are not necessarily for her. They're just against the other guy. And then vice versa, 22% of of Trump supporters is not really for Trump, it's just against Harris, right? So, and I think that is going to play out with the electorate altogether. You know, that's how it's going to play out. So I look at this move by RFK is just like that. It's a lesser of two evils. Letting me at least go with the guy that I can talk to, because apparently the Biden Harris don't even want to have a sit down with him. I can talk to him at least. He listens to me. He might even let me part of his cabinet. All I got to do is support him, you know. And he's also going to do something else. Let's continue with the announcement.
Oh, I want everyone to know that I am not terminating my campaign. I am simply suspending it and not ending it. My name will remain on the ballot in most states. If you live in a blue state, you can vote for me without harming or helping President Trump or Vice President Harris. In red states, the same will apply. I encourage you to vote for me. And if enough of you do vote for me, and neither of the major party candidates win 270 votes, which is quite possible. In fact, today our polling shows them tying at 269 to 269. And I could conceivably still end up in the White House.
Okay, so why suspend your campaign? Unless you're doing the polling without you in it, which is probably what they're doing, which is
in a contingent election. But in about 10 battleground states where my presence would be a spoiler, I'm going to remove my name. And I've already started that process and urge voters not to vote for me. It's with a sense of victory.
Okay, so that's interesting, right? In the battleground states, which is really where the election is going to be won, right? He now wants to remove his name because he realizes that he could be a spoiler. And obviously, who's he going to spoil the race for? Obviously, he's going to spoil the race for Donald Trump, right? Because he's supporting Donald Trump. So he feels that in those battleground states, he's going to take votes away from Donald Trump, which means that Harris is going to win. The Democrats are going to win. So, okay. So now he's going to try to withdraw from these 10 battleground states. I just don't know if his supporters are going to still vote for him, even though, I mean, he obviously, yes, you're not ending your campaign, you're suspending it. You're still going to be on the ballot in the states that don't really matter, right? And you want people to still vote for you in those states so that you can get enough votes to potentially still get in the White House if the two parties don't hit the 270 that they need. And your polling shows that each one gets 269, 269. Okay, if you say so.
And not defeat, that I'm suspending my campaign activities. Not only did we do the impossible by collecting 1 million signatures, we changed the national political conversation forever. Chronic disease, free speech, government corruption, breaking our addiction to war have moved to the center of politics. I can say to all who have worked so hard the last year and a half, thank you for a job well done. 3 great causes drove me.
Okay, obviously I'm not going to play all of this. I just wanted to get that little piece there. What he said, and I don't know how you guys feel. I mean, to me, I think as an independent voter, this is kind of a disappointment. I hadn't fully decided that I was going to vote for RFK Jr. To be honest with you, I'm one of those independent voters that sort of, was sort of weighing my options at the different independent candidates. But I think that regardless of what I think or what I'm going to do, he was nonetheless a very viable candidate. And even though his polling was going down, I still think he could have really done a lot in terms of really establishing a third party in America. And I think this is one of the problems with his campaign. The campaign was too focused on the individual, and this is my problem with a lot of third party candidates, independent candidates. The focus is so much on the individual personality instead of a party, right? Because in order for us to have a viable third party in America, we need to have a party, right? And I think, it's clear that RFK Jr. was not really committed to really establishing a third party, right? Another option to the two-party system. He really wasn't committed to it. I mean, he started off running with the Democrats and only left them because he realized that they were blocking him and not giving him a chance. They canceled the primaries. So he really had no way to go there. He had to get out of there and run as an independent. So I think that he really wasn't committed to really establishing an alternative voice. And I think that's unfortunate because I think he could have, and he certainly would have been successful, in my opinion, in doing it. Had he established more a party, a third party, he probably couldn't fit into the existing third parties, but had he created his own party and really pushed that forward, I think that would have been really, really beneficial to independent voters, right? Because now we have something. And also, I recently did a video, actually last week's video, where I looked at this issue of third parties and the independent voter and that sort of thing, and how important it is for us to see that it's, we shouldn't just look at winning. And that was what he was doing, where he was looking at it like, if I can't win, if you can't beat him, join him, right? That's pretty much what he's done. But the goal here is that we have to think long term as independent voters and as a third party. We have to establish a third party. We have to begin, I don't think anyone really believes that a third party in America is going to win. Let's be honest, okay? At this time in 2024. But that shouldn't be the focus. It should be, let's get at least 5% of the vote, of the popular vote. In my last video, I explained why 5% is important. I'm not going to do it in this video. At least let's work strategically to build this party and build an alternative voice. Because some of us are not for the two-party system. I am not. I am not for Democrats. The Democrats are gone. The Republicans are also gone. I agree Trump is an anomaly, but again, it's personality, individual focus. When Trump leaves, okay, the Republican Party goes back to the grand old party, right? So I think a third viable party is really needed, and this is sad news because I think RFK Jr. really could have been the person to really bring that into fruition, to be quite honest with you. I started going through a lot of the news to see, what the reaction of the mainstream news would be as a result of this. And I found some slides here. You can see one up here. Environmental group calls for investigation of RFK chainsawing whale head. Apparently, he chainsaw a whale head or something and took it somewhere. And, then another article, what's wrong with RFK Jr.'s voice? And then they explain this problem he has. RFK Jr.'s sister says Trump endorsement left her disgusted. Kerry Kennedy says father would be terribly disappointed with his son RFK supporting Trump. Betrayal of RFK Jr.'s family members decry his endorsement of Trump. It goes on. How RFK went from environmental champion to Trump backer. Bradley Whitfield slams Cheryl Hines for not speaking out after her lunatic husband, RFK Jr., endorsed Trump for president. RFK loses his Secret Service protection. He was fighting for that, and he only got that. He was fighting the whole time to get Secret Service protection, and he never got it until when? Until Trump had that assassination attempt. Then afterwards, they said, okay, you can have Secret Service. But that was pulled immediately after he suspended his campaign. I mean, he said, I'm not ending it. I'm just suspending it. I'm not ending it. You can still vote for me. I'm still on the ballot, but I guess they used that as an excuse to just get rid of his Secret Service protection. And then the thread connecting Robert F. Kennedy Jr., chemtrails and Project 2025, he has now become even more of an enemy. Here we go again. What's also interesting now, you remember in the video he said that he's going to remove his name from these 10 battleground states. Well, guess what? They're preventing him from moving himself from the ballot. So remember in the beginning I showed you the slides, and he's been fighting to get on the ballot. Then he announced he's no longer running, and he's going to remove himself from the 10 battleground states. And now guess what? It's difficult for him to do that. RFK is unable to withdraw his name from ballots in some swing states. RFK Jr. is stuck on ballots in 3 key battlegrounds despite dropping out. He didn't drop out. He's suspended. RFK Jr. won't be able to remove himself from ballots in Michigan and Wisconsin. 3rd swing state rules RFK can't withdraw from ballot. Remember, this guy was fighting to get on the ballots in the first place. Okay. RFK Jr. sues North Carolina Elections Board for not removing his name. RFK Jr.'s pro-Trump election scheme hits a snag. Judge rejects RFK's efforts to have his name removed from Michigan's ballot. Trump and RFK's alliance is more dangerous than it seems. I mean, this is coming from basically the mainstream news. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to pay a price for supporting Trump, and he's already starting to pay the price. I do know this is early September. I do know that he did get a couple of rulings where he was allowed to remove his name from certain states, but this is ending. I think the big headline though is the one that you see on the screen now. RFK Jr. dealt a huge blow to Americans who want a third party or third option. If we look at RFK supporters, according to the Pew Research Center, you can see there that this is the percentage of his supporters who say basically like whether they favor the Democrats or the Republicans or they're unfavorable. And as you can see at the bottom there, 61% of his supporters are unfavorable to the Democrats and Republicans. They don't like the 2 major parties. And that, in other words, that's one of the big reasons why they supported him, So a large chunk of Kennedy's support seems to be real, true independent candidates who are sick and tired of the 2-party system, like myself, who want to break through and break the 2-party system and establish a third alternative or third alternatives. So where are these people? What are these people going to do? Right? They're indicating that they're not for Trump or Harris. Okay, so what are these independents going to do? Well, I'll say to them, there are other independent parties and candidates. I still think that the Libertarian Party, as well as the Green Party, they're very well established. They've run presidential elections many times before. They fielded candidates. They're not just candidate focused, or at least not as much as the other parties. They have a party machine. You can go to them. if you like what they talk about. But it's very, very interesting. Now, the New York Times did a recent poll, as you can see there. And what's interesting about this poll is that this is a September 3rd to September 6th. So it's a very, very new poll last week, a few days ago. And I thought it was very interesting for a number of reasons. Number one, when they asked the question down here, if the 2024 presidential election were held today, who would you vote for if the candidates were Kamala, Donald, RFK, Jill Stein, Cornel West, Chase Oliver? You see all the different parties there. And you can see Robert Kennedy's numbers. I mean, they're practically zero, And again, this is a recent poll a couple of days ago. This is after his announcement, So what I'm wondering is that, are people really going to vote for Robert F. Kennedy? He's saying he encourages people to vote for him, but are they really going to vote? And it looks like probably not, Why would you vote for someone who basically has pulled himself out of the race? I mean, he hasn't dropped out, but I mean, if you're getting your name off of ballots, then, you might as well say you're not really a candidate, because ultimately I think that people want to vote for someone who they feel can challenge the two-party system, So I thought that was interesting. I thought another thing that was interesting here is, if you had to decide between the two today, who would you decide for? Right? This is the registered voters. Now, these are people who don't support Trump or Harris, right? They call them leaners. They don't support Trump or Harris. If you had to decide between the two today, who would you lean more toward? You can see, boom, 60% of them. These are people that, are like, I don't think I can go in any, because the question is kind of leading. If you had to decide between the two major candidates today, who would you lean more toward? Not even who would you vote for, who would you lean more towards? And 60% saying, I don't know, refuse, So it does seem to me that these are these strong independents, and these, when I say strong, I mean independents who are not gonna support the Republicans or the Democrats, no matter who they field, and I'm one of them. So I totally get it. I totally get it. I just think that it is a little bit of a disappointment. I'm sure to the majority of RFK supporters, it's a disappointment, because like you see here, a lot of them don't support the two parties, right? A lot of them are truly independent, and they were really hoping for a third party option. But I still felt or feel that he could have at least established a third party, a third option going forward in the future, and I think that was a missed opportunity. With that, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to continue. We got 2 months till the election. I'm going to continue to focus on the election for the next 2 months. So if you're interested in following, please do subscribe. I appreciate it very much. I would love to hear your comments on this, how you feel, particularly if you're an independent voter, or you are a RFK supporter. I would love to hear your comments. Maybe you agree with what he did. I'm not saying I don't agree with it. I just feel that it's a little disappointing because we've really lost probably the most viable third-party candidate in a long time. Is just gone. What can you do? Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Stay safe. Love one another. Hope you guys are good, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.